For the United Nations Secretary Stephen Dujarric has urged humanitarian agencies to continue calling for the protection of civilians in Tigray and of the respect for international humanitarian law. More than 25,000 children, women and men have fled Ethiopia into Sudan in search for safety due to ongoing clashes between the Ethiopian federal government and the Tigray regional forces. Amadou Kante files in this report.
The United Nations Refugee Agency and other humanitarian organizations are supporting the Sudanese government in response to the growing crisis as the number of new arrivals are far outspacing the capacity on the ground. The spokesman for the UN Secretary General, Stephen Dujarric, said there's a need to ensure that aid continues to reach areas affected by the conflict. He said efforts to provide support for victims is becoming more difficult as roads in the Tigray region remain blocked, putting millions at risk for food insecurity and disease.
That they and their partners continue to call for the protection of civilians in Tigray, respect for international humanitarian law, and ways to assess needs and ensure that aid continues to reach areas affected by the conflict. Roads to the Tigray region remain blocked, and our partners warn that supplies will soon be exhausted, putting millions at risk of food insecurity and disease.
Stephen Dujarric also raises concern about the risk for the spread of COVID-19 due to the lack of communication and health facilities.
It's also concerned about the movements of people and the risk this entails for the spread of COVID-19. Since the beginning of the conflict, all systems of surveillance have broken down with lack of communications and access to health facilities.
According to reports, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed indicated that the military operation launched in response to the reported occupation of a government military base by Tigrayan forces nearly 2 weeks ago would continue. Abiy said the military campaign is now in its final phase. Meanwhile, the local leader of Ethiopia's Tigray region said on Tuesday that the battle was still ongoing around the southern town of Amalata, which federal troops said they seized the previous day. Reporting for Africa News, I am Amadou Kante.